All right. Looks like we are live. So excited to be back with you guys again. Come on in the room. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. I am taking my own advice and I'm going to go ahead and share this stream. Hope that if you are joining me, that you're able to share as well. Gonna wait a couple of seconds as I share. Looks like I did share. Looks like I did share. Just waiting a few minutes to see who of my family and friends can jump on and see if you are with me today. Sharing some of my stories. All right, looks like I got somebody joining me, got some people joining me. Let me let my Instagram family in. Let my Instagram family in. Welcome, welcome, welcome to my Instagram family. Welcome to my Facebook family. I hope that you all are doing okay. Hey, Miss Lynette. Hi, Mr. Reese. So glad that you could join me today. Welcome to my Instagram family. I'm excited to be back with you guys, getting back on track with my Wellness Wednesday chats. So just excited to be here today. I have a good topic. Actually, a topic I shared today with some staff members at the school that I work at. So I'm so excited. We're going to be talking about working on developing a coping toolbox because yes, adults need it too. Oh, thank you. You see my lipstick. I tried to do a little something, something. I gotta come on here correct. Because if you're gonna go live, you gotta look like something when you go live. Come on, somebody. Even when you in between hairstyles, okay? Praise God for the head wrap. Praise God for scarves that you could just throw something on real quick and still be cute, still be put together, even when you're in between hairstyles. So I am excited. But I'm excited for you all to be on. Do me a favor. If you are on Instagram, if you can go ahead and share this, invite somebody to join us. If you're on Facebook, make sure that you go ahead and you hit the share button. Let's get the conversation out. Let's not be stingy with it. Let's not keep it to ourselves because today's topic is a very important topic. So first of all, welcome family. Welcome. Y'all are a part of the Oasis family. So when I say welcome family, I mean welcome Oasis family because y'all are all a part of the Oasis family. So excited to be here with you today. We're going to be talking about a topic again. We're going to be talking about coping during this time. So by day, for the time being, by day, I am a school therapist. And although the majority of my job is to work with the students and doing real hi Miss Vanita, I see that you're on with me on Instagram. It's good to see you. While the majority of my job is working with the students and helping the students to cope and making sure that the students are mentally and emotionally well, right, I always find it cheating if I don't take time to help the staff as well, right? I love working with the students, but I would be lying majorly if I didn't say that I also love and I thrive and I see the need of being able to work with the adults, right? Being able to work with the ones who are working with the students. And so every Wednesday, I put up like a Wellness Wednesday post in the school as well for the staff to consider, for them to ponder on. And I decided that over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about coping. We talk about coping so much as it pertains to students. Like that is a major topic that we talk about as it pertains to students, right? We're always talking about making sure, how are the children, how are the students doing, how are their coping skills, making sure that in classes, teachers are doing everything that they can to help the students to get their coping skills game up, right? We're focusing in our counseling sessions. We're talking about it. We're doing different activities and teaching them different ways and to manage their emotions and to manage their anger. Here's the thing. These days, this generation is one of the most angry generations that we have probably seen. And so the ability for our kids to cope is so pivotal. It is so important. But what I am finding is that as we are putting pressure on the adults to teach kids how to cope, what I am finding is that the adults don't know how to cope. Come on, somebody. What I'm finding is that the adults that we are entrusting our kids to, and that we are giving them curriculum and teach the curriculum. My school is big on social emotional learning, which I absolutely love. And I think all schools should have some type of curriculum based on social emotional learning, right? There should be a course of that in and of itself. But what happens is we put the curriculum in the hands of someone who isn't a mental health professional. We put the curriculum in the hands of someone who doesn't necessarily know who hasn't necessarily studied it, right? And we expect them just to spit out and to teach these kids how to do it. What I am finding resoundingly is that the adults don't know how to cope. They don't know what it means to cope. And what they thought was healthy coping skills is actually turning out to be negative coping skills. And so I wanted to go from the topic today and talking about developing a coping toolbox. So wait a minute. So for real quick, let's take a step back. Let's talk about what the heck is coping, right? That's a word we throw around and we automatically assume that people know what coping means, right? It sounds good. It sounds clinical, right? We need to know how to cope. Coping is basically how you manage and handle difficult emotions, right? Coping is how you handle and manage difficult emotions. Coping can be you can cope positively, but then you can also cope negatively. What I have found, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about my journey, is that some things on the outside that was seen as positive in a positive way of coping, if you're not doing it right, if your mindset behind doing it is wrong, it can actually be a negative coping mechanism. And we'll get into that, right? And so first of all, when we are talking about developing a coping toolbox, you have to know that coping is the way that you manage and handle difficult situations. And we all cope differently, right? What works for Chanel is not going to work for Lynette. What works for Lynette is not going to work for Miss Vanita. What works for Miss Vanita is not going to necessarily work for Doris, and so on and so forth, right? So we all have to have our own toolbox, a toolbox of things that we can dig into to manage difficult emotions. It can be anxiety, it can be frustration, it can be anger, it can be loneliness, it can be isolation, it can be confusion. Whatever it is, we should all have a toolbox of things to deal with. The example that I used today with the staff as I was working with them, and I think it's a great example, is if you walk into any public building, right? You walk into any public building, you are 100% guaranteed going to see signs all over the place about how to handle a fire, about where the nearest exits are, reminders to walk and not run, right? Stop, drop, and roll, where the fire extinguishers are. Any public building you walk into, you're going to see that. Has anybody seen that? Like it's there's so much that sometimes we don't even pay attention to it and realize it's there. In schools, they fire drill to the T. If they do nothing else in a school building, you're going to do a fire drill. If you do nothing else in a month's time, you're going to do a fire drill. Why is that? Why is it that it's important to have signs up in every public building you go to about what happens in a fire? Let's be honest. Fires are not something, fires do happen every day. Let's be correct. Fires do happen every day and it's tragic, but it's not something that is so 100% common that's happening every second of every minute of every working moment of where I am. If I'm honest, I don't know that I have personally encountered any real fires. So why is it so important and necessary to constantly drill into people? This is where the exit is. Walk and don't run. This is how you handle a fire extinguisher is. Why is it important? It's important because in the middle of crisis, we lose all sense of logic and clear thinking. Somebody drop that in the comments for me. In the midst of crisis, we lose all sense of logic and clear thinking. So right now, Chanel is in her right mind. There's no crisis going on. And so I know if somebody told me that it's time to handle that it's time to do a fire drill, what am I going to do? I'm going to get up I'm going to go to the nearest exit. I know that I'm going to walk across the street from my house because you need to be a certain amount of distance away. I'm going to wait till they do whatever they got to do in the house. I'm going to wait for the all clear. I'm going to go back in and I'm not going to think about it anymore. However, if I start to smell smoke and I start to see flames in my house, what happens is I go into flight, fight, or freeze mode. And usually what happens when I go into fight, flight, or freeze mode, what happens is logic and clear thinking tends to go out the window in the midst of a crisis. And so it is important, the reason why they put those signs up in public buildings, because if there's ever a real crisis, they don't care if you've been doing 50 years worth of fire drills, you are bound to forget something. You are bound to forget that there's an exit door right next to you. And you're going to go all the way down the hallway. You're going to go into panic mode. And instead of walking, you're going to take off running down the hall and probably knock down some coworkers on the way. It is going to happen. And this is what happens to us in crisis mode. So it is with emotional crises. When we go through emotional crises, we lose all sense of logic and clear thinking. When we go into an emotional crisis, logic and clear thinking goes out the window, right? And so honestly, in crisis training, because I do a lot of crisis training, it's one of the things that I love to do. And crisis training, they teach you when a person is in an emotional crisis, you don't even try to reason with them at that point in time and in that moment. It is no point in you trying to reason with a person who's actively in an emotionally crises, because if you try to reason with them, they can't. You're adding more confusion, you're adding more cloudiness to what it is that they're already going through, right? And so in those moments, you want to, like there's a constant plan for a fire, you want to have a plan for your emotional crises. We need to have an emotional crises plan. If you wait until you're in the emotional crises, you are already too late. If you wait until you're in the midst of an emotional breakdown and then you try to develop a coping toolkit, it is already too late. You're not thinking clearly. You don't have the ability to reason. You don't have the ability to operate in logic in that moment. So you are already too late. So just like with those fires and how there's signs everywhere and how they have us practicing fire drills and they're drilling it into us, we should be constantly working on developing an emotional crises plan. Enter your coping skills toolbox, right? This is important for adults as well, because we think, oh, because I'm an adult, I'm going to think in logic, I'm going to operate. No. Honestly, in crisis situations, this is the role of it. I have dealt with crisis situations with clients, emotional crises, of course, and I've seen the children operating in more logic and clear thinking than I saw the adults operating in. So this is important for everyone across the board. I don't care if you're already a mental health professional. I don't care if you're a minister or a pastor. I don't care what your background is. We should all have a coping skills toolbox and an emotional crises plan, so that when it is time, when an emotional crises come up, and listen, I want you to hear the words clearly. I didn't say if, I said when, because if you are human and you are living on this earth, you are going to deal with an emotional crisis. And so when the emotional crisis arises, you want to have your plan already set in place, so it takes all the brain work out of it. You don't have to worry about I'm not thinking logically. You don't have to worry about I'm thinking clearly. All you have to do is pull it out, go through and say, okay, when I'm experiencing this, I'm doing this, that, and the third. It sounds crazy, right? But when I'm dealing with clients and when I'm seeing with clients, oftentimes, especially what they're dealing with, I'll do a safety plan of sorts. It's like an emotional crisis plan we'll do with them, right? And it's a form, and we'll fill it out and we'll go through question by questions, and then we'll go, but if that doesn't work, then we're going to do this. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to try this. And if that doesn't work, we're going to try this. And I always tell them to post it somewhere where you can see it. If you need to post it on your refrigerator, if you need to post it on the closet door in your bedroom, if you need to post it on your bathroom mirror, I want you to post this plan somewhere where you can see it. So every time you look at it, it is a reminder of the steps that you need to take, because you have to rehearse coping. Coping only works if you've done the rehearsal, if you've done the practice of it for it to work. It is out of order for the first time you're ever trying a particular coping skill when you're in the midst of a crisis, because you need to make it a habit for it to work, right? I'm on this journey of weight loss and exercising. I can't go to the gym one time and exercise and expect that I'm gonna walk out all buff, you know what I'm saying, with guns ablazing. Like, I can't expect that. I have to keep practicing. I have to practice at my diet. I have to train myself to get up. I have to train myself to go to the gym, and I have to keep working it. I have to keep doing it. So it is when it comes to coping. You have to practice your coping skills. You should not only do your coping skills when things are going bad. You find your coping skills, you find the things that help you to feel better, that help you to calm down, that help you to manage in the midst of a situation. And you should engage in those regularly, especially when you're feeling good. That's why they have you doing fire drills when there isn't a crisis. It would not help anybody if you did a fire drill when there's a real fire. It ain't a drill. This ain't a drill at that point, right? So then nobody knows what to do. Nobody has a sense of anything. The reason why they constantly practice it, the reason why they constantly drill it into you is because even though in the midst of a crisis, all logic and clear thinking goes out of the window, at least if I practice a thing, something is going to get in. And at some point, maybe, just maybe, something will embed into my system and something will pop up and say, okay, wait. Okay, they said nearest exit. Okay, there's an exit right here, right? You may not get it all right, but if you wait until the fire and that's the first time you ever do a drill, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. If you wait until you're in emotional crises and it's the first time that you're ever practicing your coping skills, you are in trouble, because at that point, you don't know that it works for you. You're not willing to try. You're panicking. So you need to make sure that you develop your coping toolbox for the emotional crises and practice it as often as you can, right? And we're going to go into it. There are 6 specific areas that I want to present to you guys today to consider when you're developing your emotional toolbox, okay? So area number 1, you want to look for activities that are self-soothing. Number 1, look for activities that are self-soothing. So, like with a baby, babies will chew on a pacifier, right? Self-soothing activities are activities that engage your 5 senses. When you're in emotional crises, your 5 senses are out of whack, it's all over the place. It's like you can't think clearly, you don't know how to feel, smells may get confusing and all of that stuff, right? And so you want to engage activities that are comforting to your 5 senses. I put this post up yesterday. For me, that is essential oils. I love essential oils. I have my favorites that I use. I have them on my desk with me right now. Essential oils are self-soothing for me. So you have to figure out, what is self-soothing? For me, is it touch? Touch used to be a big thing with me. So I'm telling on myself, but whatever. We family, right? We all family. I used to have this sheet that I would keep with me at all times because it was self-soothing. It was something to touch. So if I was going through something emotional, I would go grab my sheet and I would rub my sheet because it was self-soothing, right? It was something to the touch. Maybe it's a stuffed animal. Maybe it's utilizing the stress ball. Something you're listening to. Is it music? Is it meditation? Is it nature sounds, right? Something that you see. Maybe you have relaxing pictures. On my desk, I actually have a picture, a 3-part picture of a beach and a horizon in the background. So it's something that I can look at, right? Maybe it's something, be careful with taste. Taste can get out of hand and it can turn into emotional eating, but maybe it's drinking water to help, calm you down. Sometimes when you're in emotional crises, your blood sugar can do a lot, right? So you may need to suck on a mint or something in case your blood sugar drops, right? Or something you can smell. Again, essential oils, candles, lotions, certain things that are soothing for you. So the first area in developing your coping toolkit is self-soothing. The second area are activities of distraction. Activities of distraction. You want to find things that will help you to take your mind off of the problem for a while. Now, here's the thing. Most of us get caught in distraction and then we never deal with the real issues. Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying distract yourself and never process. I'm not saying distract yourself and never deal with the issue of concern. That is not healthy. However, when you are in the midst of a crisis, sometimes you need to do some things to separate yourself from the situation so that you can get back to a place of logic. You can get back to a place of clear thinking. There are certain traumas that people deal with, right? And they will like have this derealization. They'll have this depersonalization moment, or they dissociate, like have this out of body experience. That is their system's way of trying to save them in the moment. Now, it's not healthy to stay there, but that is their system's way in the moment of trying to protect them and save them from dealing with the trauma in the moment, because it may be too much and overwhelming for their system. Crisis situations are good situations that have a few activities of distraction, things that'll take your mind off of it. So this can be doing puzzles, reading books, doing arts and crafts, crocheting. This could be watching Netflix. This can be watching a movie, or whatever the case is. You want to have activities that will help you in the midst of crises to take your mind off the situation temporarily. Not take your mind off the situation so you never deal with it, but take your mind off the situation long enough so that you can regroup yourself, you can regather yourself, and then you can look at the situation with a new lens. Number three, to consider in developing your coping toolbox: opposite action activities. Opposite action activities. So opposite action activities are basically activities that are positive and contrary to the negative impulses that you're feeling. Right. So for instance, if I am feeling unsafe, right? If I'm feeling unsafe, let's say there's nobody in the room that's a danger to me, but anxiety starts to rise up and I start to feel unsafe. The impulse in me may be get up and go punch that person in the face because I'm feeling unsafe, right? Let's just be real. Those in-person experiences come up, and that's what we'll run to, right? Opposite action says, I'm feeling unsafe. The environment around me realistically is not unsafe. And so instead of getting up and going to punch that person in the face, I'm going to do some breathing activities. My impulse is to fight, but I'm not going to fight because there's no reason for me to fight in this moment, right? And so I'm going to do something opposite of what I'm feeling. So maybe you're having unsafe thoughts. Maybe you're having thoughts about harming yourself, thoughts about harming someone else. Opposite action in developing your coping toolbox would be you begin to pray. You begin to recite affirmations and affirm yourself. You look for things that are inspiring you, right? To uplift your spirit. You may, if you're feeling sad and you're feeling extremely down, it may mean watching something funny, watching something that's going to cheer you up. But opposite action activities, that's going to help you to be better, right? The next thing to consider, we are on number four. Number four in developing your coping toolbox: activities that are going to help you to bring you to a place of emotional awareness. When you are going through emotional crisis situations, and when you're going through things where you need to have a positive coping toolbox, processing your emotions is important. We run from our emotions. Here's the thing about that. The more you run from your emotions, the more they're going to linger and fester, and you're never going to be able to work through them and resolve them. Process, process, process. Process is one of my favorite words. All of my therapy partners know that I love the word process, and they hate the word process. You have to process the emotions. What does that mean? You have to sit in them. You have to lean into them. You have to figure out, why am I having this emotion? What work needs to be done so that I can get through and resolve this emotion? It is so important. So you want to have activities that help you to bring emotional awareness. What is that? That could be journaling. I know somebody, I have a therapy partner I'm working with right now who is an artist. And so maybe it's your art. Maybe I'm feeling some kind of way and I can't really sort out my emotions. And so I put it into my art. I draw a picture or something that may be able to better identify and depict what it is I'm going through if I can't verbalize it. You can do that. It's writing. Maybe it's talking to a trusted individual, a trusted friend, right? Going to somebody who you know is a safe person, I'm gonna have to do a live on that next. We don't have time to get into that, but there are safe people and there are unsafe people as it pertains to your emotions. And just because a person is safe in this area of your life doesn't mean that they're safe in handling your emotions. We're gonna do a live on that one day, right? But you want to make sure that you are either engaging and talking with somebody who is safe, or journaling, or some kind of activity that's going to help you to bring awareness to what the emotion it is that you're feeling and to help you to process it. Number 5, mindfulness. When you're considering your coping toolbox, you want to make sure that you are gauging mindfulness. Okay, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness are things that you do to help center you and ground you in the moment. A lot of the stress that we deal with and an amount of emotional concerns that we're dealing with is because y'all may have seen this, and it's one of my favorite ways to describe this, but I don't know who originated the quote, but I use it all the time. When you're thinking about everything that's going on, that has gone on in your past, and you ruminate and dwell on that, that is depression. When you're constantly ruminating and dwelling on what's next, what's to come, what might happen, that is anxiety. When you are in this very moment where your feet are planted, that is called living. You want to constantly be in a place where you're living in the moment, right? In the past, you'll deal with that through your counseling and everything else. What's to come? Set a plan for yourself, set goals for yourself, but you can't necessarily control everything that's going on in the future. But I can control what's going on in this moment. And with the choices that I make in this moment will make a difference for how my future looks, and it will make a difference for how I process my past. So living in the current moment is the most important thing that you can do. Mindfulness helps you to do that. Sometimes you're just thinking about everything that ever went on in your life, or sometimes you're just nervous and you're anxious over something that might happen, right? And so you need to get mindful, and you need to do things that are going to center you and that are going to ground you. Grounding is simply bringing you back into the moment where you are, right? Some people do this through meditation. For me, it's prayer. Prayer helps to ground me and center me. There are other activities that you can do. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's breathing exercises, right? Anything that you're going to do that's going to force you to focus right now. So if I engage in breathing exercises, I have to be intentional about doing those in the moment. So what is that doing? That's grounding me, and that's bringing me back, right? If I decide that I'm going to pray, I have to be in this moment so I know what I'm talking about when I'm praying. If I decide that I'm going to meditate, I have to be in this moment to do that. And so you want to make sure that you have activities that are going to ground you, that are going to center you and force you to focus on mindfulness. And last but not least area to consider. Let's say you done went through the self-soothing activities. You did the distraction thing. You opposite action, you processed and had emotional wellness, and you did mindfulness, and none of that works for you. This is where you want to have a crisis plan in place. When you're developing your coping toolbox, a crisis plan should absolutely be a part of that. Why? Because when all else fails, I need to take some major steps. I may need to take some major steps so that I don't have an emotional breakdown and I don't absolutely lose it. These are the major steps you may have to take. This is having a therapist. That's important to process your emotions, right? This is, okay, this is the time for me to call my pastors or call that minister. You may have to call a hotline, right? There's a suicide hotline. There are crises hotlines. There are things and resources out there that people who are available to you 24/7 that you need to talk to if you're feeling unsafe within yourself, right? You call a hotline. Crisis team. If it's absolutely out of control and you're completely unsafe, you may talk to a mental health professional, and they may refer you to in New Jersey, they're mostly hospitals, emergency rooms, but they'll refer you to a crisis screening center. Your crisis plan should be, I tried absolutely everything possible and nothing worked. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be safe. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep it together. This is not a good situation. And so your crisis plan is that next level plan that you develop for yourself so that when all else fails, you have that one last ditch effort. And your crisis plan is always going to be the major steps. It's going to go to a crisis screening center, contacting a therapist or a psychiatrist. It's going to be calling those hotlines, but doing whatever you have to do in that moment to get you safe enough so that you can set and determine a long-term plan. All right. And so again, when you're developing your coping toolbox, you want to consider self-soothing activities, number one, activities of distraction, opposite action activities, emotional awareness activities, mindfulness activities, and when all else fails, have you a crisis plan in place. Listen, if you work with a mental health professional, they can help you to do this, because sometimes you don't know what may work for you and you may need help. It's okay. Reach out and get help. Get a therapist, get a counselor, get someone that can sit down with you and help you to develop these coping strategies for yourself, but then also to help you to develop a crisis plan, because it's necessary. All right. I hope that was helpful, guys. I hope that was helpful for you. This is important stuff for us to know. When we think about coping, we think, oh, I'm an adult, so I can deal with it. That is just simply not true. As adults, we go through and experience life too. And so it is important that we have a plan in place so that when all else fails, we are ready to deal with it. Don't wait until the fire happens to decide to try to work it. Work it now. Practice it now. Don't wait until you're in emotional crises, because it won't work. That is the reason why we do fire drills, even if our building has never seen a fire. We do what we have to do. Practice it. When you put these activities together, listen, there are times when I'm perfectly fine. But if you're one of my therapy partners in my office, my therapy partners know I always have my diffuser on. You almost will never catch me in my office without my diffuser on and me diffusing scents, because it's one of the things that I practice. One, it helps set the atmosphere. It helps to make the atmosphere relaxing for the work that's about to happen in sessions. But two, it's also just a constant practice of self-soothing, right? There may be times when everything is going on and I'm playing games on my phone or whatever, or I know what Netflix shows I'm going to. There are times I'm always trying to practice affirming myself, right? That opposite action, practicing affirming myself. If I'm upset, maybe I'm not in emotional crisis, I'm just upset. I'm going to speak those things that are not as if they were, and I'm going to affirm some things, and I'm going to pray. Mindfulness, I'm always trying to engage in mindfulness and breathing activities. Anxiety is one of those things that I deal with personally, even as a mental health professional. And so I've learned to do breathing exercises. Sometimes I'll just take the bottle of my essential oils and I'll just smell it. If I don't have time to fully diffuse, I'll just take the bottle and I'll just smell it, just a little bit under my nose, to help relax me. Mindfulness. And you best believe I have a crisis plan, aka my therapist, okay? On speed dial, because if something goes wrong, I am calling my therapist. If I need help or whatever, hey, do you have an appointment? I have pastors that I talk to. I have really close sister friends that I can talk to. But a plan is set in place, and I'm always practicing it, not waiting until I need it to decide that that's the moment to develop it, and I'm gonna practice it. So I really, really hope that this was helpful for you guys. I hope that you got something out of it. Do me a favor, drop some comments, drop me some hearts. Go ahead and share. Make sure that we get this word out, because 2020 is crazy enough. There's a lot going on in 2020. If we ain't cope no other time, we need to learn how to cope quick in 2020, because things are changing rapidly. Like for the last 8 months, every week there's a new story, there's a new report, there's a new something going on. And so we have to be able to cope, because constant change, transition, and adjustment is uncomfortable for us, and it can cause us to feel out of control and to lose our equilibrium. So again, I hope that this was helpful for you guys. Please go ahead and share. I will be back with you again in 2 weeks. I'm getting back on track, I promise you. And I'm thinking in 2 weeks we're going to talk about safe people. Who wants to talk about safe people? If you want to talk about safe people and what that means and how to determine if someone is a safe person versus not a safe person, just drop it in the comments for me real quick. I'll make sure I'll double back and I'll look at that. But I think that is such an important topic for us to touch on. And so I'm excited to see you all in 2 weeks. It'll be November at that point. Can y'all believe it's November? Like, it was just March. I don't know about y'all, but it was literally just March, and now it's November, and we're about to go into 2021. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful day, and remember to share. Talk to you guys soon. Bye, Instagram family. Bye, Facebook family.